"I will not sit at the same table with her," the French queen declared sharply and loudly. The subject of her ire, her own sister, Countess Beatrice of Provence, could only manage a bitter smile. Margarita's animosity had crossed all reasonable boundaries, and even King Louis IX could not rein in his wife. All of this turmoil stemmed from land disputes, from the inheritance that Margarita herself had begun to call cursed. Count Raymond of Provence and his wife, Beatrice of Savoy, an exceptionally beautiful woman, had 4 lovely daughters. Each had inherited their mother's striking appearance and remarkable intelligence. Provençal poets sang the praises of this extraordinary family in their verses and songs, and if anyone were to ask which of the 4 sisters was the most beautiful, they would likely struggle to find an answer. The magnificent flower garden, carefully tended by the Count, attracted many suitors. However, only the most enticing offers were considered. In the end, the eldest, Margarita, was married off to the French king, the second, Eleonora, to the King of England, and the third, Sancha, to the Count of Cornwall, who was soon to become the King of Germany. Only the youngest, Beatrice, remained in her father's house. The youngest and most beloved? Perhaps. She was not only beautiful but also exceptionally kind. She adored music and played with joy, delighting her aging father. But time passed, and it was soon her turn to be married off as well. Proposals came pouring in one after another. The King of Aragon could have made a good match, but negotiations fell through due to a sharp protest from Rome. The Count of Toulouse and the King of Germany didn't seem convincing enough. Then the Dowager Queen of France, Blanche of Castile, intervened. She convinced the Provençal family that a union between Beatrice and her younger son Charles was a wonderful opportunity. Charles was ambitious, strong, and brave, and in the 13th century, with such a wealth of character combined with riches, he could achieve remarkable things. Beatrice's father passed away while marriage negotiations were still underway. He had given his consent and signed his will. His widow received her widow's share. The elder daughters were already secured with dowries, so the vast county of Provence remained for Beatrice. The marriage to Charles of Anjou took place in the year 1246 in Provence. The groom arrived with a large entourage of lawyers and accountants. Now that he was set to take over the county, he wanted to be informed about every detail. This insistence did not sit well with his mother-in-law, Beatrice of Savoy, and she attempted to object. Most of all, it displeased the bride's elder sister, Queen Margarita of France. Marguerite of Provence felt deeply insulted by her father's decision. After corresponding with her sisters, she found that they shared her viewpoint. The 3 crowned beauties were ready to unite against the youngest sister, all because of land. Beatrice, who was barely 14 at the time, didn't know how to navigate the situation. However, her husband was older and wiser. Charles of Anjou calmly reasoned that they were within their rights, and no one could change that. But upon arriving at the French court in Paris, Beatrice felt the full weight of her elder sister's animosity. Marguerite openly mistreated her, making sharp and unjust remarks directed at Beatrice. When the queen attempted to involve her husband in resolving the conflict, Louis gently declined. Meanwhile, Beatrice's mother and Charles's mother-in-law was not idle. Under her influence, unrest began to brew in the county against the new authority. The 3 largest cities revolted, and Charles had to work hard to quell the uprising. To appease his mother-in-law, the Count of Anjou handed over the county of Forcalquier to her, but he had no intention of making further concessions. 2 years after their wedding, King Louis IX and his wife, along with Charles of Anjou and his wife, set sail for yet another crusade. That same year, Beatrice gave birth to their first child, named Louis. Sadly, the poor boy lived only a few days, leaving his grieving mother at a loss. Fortunately, Charles was there for her. In addition to his bravery and ambition, he possessed a remarkable quality. He treated his young wife with tenderness and care. The Provençals rose up again while Charles and Beatrice were thousands of miles away from home. Upon hearing the news, King Louis allowed his brother to return. For nearly 2 years, Charles worked tirelessly, using both military force and negotiations to restore peace in Provence. That cursed inheritance. It turned out to be far less appealing than it seemed. Beatrice became a mother once more, and her relationship with her own mother gradually improved, even though her mother continued to harbor a secret hatred for her son-in-law. But Marguerite remained unchanged. She kept a watchful eye on the events unfolding in Provence, waiting for Charles and his wife to make any mistake. She needed a pretext to send royal troops into the county. The situation she found herself in, constant uprisings in the county, coupled with Marguerite's hatred, was wearing Beatrice down. Charles was handling his role admirably, and she showed remarkable strength in enduring her elder sister's attacks, but the young woman's emotional state was far from stable. So when Beatrice learned that the Pope was offering her husband the Sicilian crown, she had mixed feelings about the news. On one hand, ruling in Naples, the capital of the kingdom, meant gaining independence and never having to see Marguerite again. On the other hand, the crown rightfully belonged to the Hohenstaufen dynasty, whose members were determined to defend their throne by force if necessary. Charles was also uncertain. He understood that his absence would surely be exploited to incite another rebellion in Provence. But how delightful it would be to become king, especially for someone so far removed from the throne. In the year 1263, everything fell into place. King Louis blessed his brother for new endeavors, the Pope confirmed his readiness to crown him, and Beatrice, tired of the troubles at home, gladly supported her husband. 3 years later, in Rome, Charles of Anjou and Beatrice of Provence were crowned as the King and Queen of Sicily. The only thing left was to subdue the kingdom, where Manfred Hohenstaufen considered himself the rightful ruler. Battle-hardened from the Crusades, Charles knew how to fight. The revenues from the county of Provence allowed him to maintain a sizable army. The newly crowned king managed to defeat his opponent. Manfred was killed, and Charles and his wife triumphantly entered Naples. Beatrice wore the crown for just 1 year and 4 months. On the 23rd of September in the year 1267, she passed away unexpectedly in Salerno. Almost everyone, including Charles, believed that the young woman had been poisoned. She had plenty of deadly enemies alongside her husband. Was that truly the case? And who was involved in Beatrice's death? Perhaps only Charles knew the answer. At the very least, he soon dealt with the representatives of the Hohenstaufen house with unprecedented cruelty. But that is a story for another time. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe, like, and thank you for your comments.